Hello, everybody. So excited to be here today. First time I've been here. Thank you for the opportunity. So, as Robin mentioned in the introduction, my name is Jerry Diaz. I'm the Director of Development and Marketing for Amazon House. I've been there for about 3.5 years. We do several special events. I give you 20 reasons why I'm being taught today. Several of those require sponsorship, sponsor renewals, sponsor kind of identifying. Part of that, I did fundraising and board relations for a national nonprofit called the Children for the Blind and Dyslexic. It was based out of Princeton, New Jersey. And prior to that, I was at the Muscular Dystrophy Association for about 15.5 years. So, native of Phoenix and a graduate of ESU.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Evans, again with Evans Communications and Events. And I started my career, was very fortunate, as the hardball assistant after I graduated from Arizona State University. So I learned from the machine, right, in this town. So those ladies really provided me with an amazing secondary education in my career. And then from there, I went to the Phoenix Symphony for 3.5 seasons. And after that, I went through Valley Leadership. And if you don't know what Valley Leadership is, if you're looking to expand your networking and your learning at some point, please look into it. And found that there was really a need for somebody to give advice to smaller nonprofits. So that's what we do. And 12 years ago, I started with one email to my Valley Leadership folks and had 3 clients in return. And this season, we did over 25 nonprofit events in our firm. I'm sorry, I get nervous. I'm so used to being behind the scenes. I'm not usually out front talking. I'm the person saying, go, go, go to all my clients. So I'll get over it.
Andrea, we call that a pointer. You get it done. That's good. Hi, I'm Debbie Rittenhouse, and I'm with Honor Health Foundation, formerly Scottsdale Healthcare Foundation. I've been involved with the entertainment industry and special events for over 30 years. All of it here in the Valley. Started with the LPGA when it was out in Sun City West, and then transferred to the Sundome Center for the Performing Arts when it was still existing. I cried a couple years ago when they tore it down, but I managed that for 2.5 years and loved every minute of it. But then I got involved with the Senior PGA Tour, now the Champions Tour, and I was involved with them for 12 years as tournament director. I did the startup of the Tradition at Desert Mountain, if any of you are familiar with that. And it was a great event and a fun time. But then my life changed when I was a late life mom, had a little girl, and that was 21 years ago. She's now 21 years old. So since she was 7 months old, I have been with Honor Health Foundation as project manager, special events, and I do a lot of the golf events, but I also get involved with third-party events that we do and donor recognition type things and all of that. So it's a great job. I always say if I have to work, I'm going to enjoy what I do, and I thoroughly enjoy what I do.
Okay, so we have just some kind of starting lead-in questions. What are the top 3 things to keep in mind when building your relationship with a sponsor?
Oh, me. So sorry. I was waiting for somebody else. I wanted just to say something before we started. I used to come to a lot of these and just go back feeling like, oh my God, I'm not doing all the right things. I think for a lot of you, I think you're doing the right things. So my advice to you is if you walk away with 1 or 2 things that you can go back and implement, today is a complete success. So just want to start off by saying that. And we were actually having a pre-discussion about, I think people are coming today for our sessions like, tell me the secret sauce. Well, just tell me, get to the end, get to chapter 13, tell me the secret sauce. And it really is about a recipe. And to your question, Robin, part of that recipe is sponsor relationships. As you develop and cultivate those relationships, and if people become sponsors, it's really the sponsorship for whatever your special event, whether it's a walk, a gala, a special event, that is really the starting point to a longer chapter that you really want to write. So one of the things you want to talk really about is the ability to create and maintain healthy relationships. I came from an industry where we use something called credit where credit is due. And that's where we really bragged about people that are doing nice things for us. and what did that look like? It just wasn't that one call like, hey, our event is in 2 months, can you be the title sponsor again? It really is a year-round relationship. Just remembering their special days, one of the best practices I do is if they're a big sponsor, I do a Google alert on them. So if they hit the news, I want to thank them. I want to send them a note. I want to set up a lunch. Just say, you're invested in us, we're invested in you. So I think those are probably just a couple of the top things that I do for sponsor relationships.
I made several notes about some trends that I've seen this event season for you all today. And in this regard, the best sponsorship thank yous this year came from phone calls from board members the next day, thanking me or somebody I brought to them for their participation at whatever level that they did as the first touch to renewing that sponsorship for the next year. It was done by a board member. It was obviously had been done weeks in advance before the event even happened. It wasn't a scramble, I could tell. And one of those organizations I've already committed to personally, because I walk the walk and talk the talk. So I have my organizations that I give to, and I've already committed to upping my contribution to an event that's not till next spring, because I was just very impressed with that level of organization, that they took the time, was organized, and touched me the next day and said, kind of, informally, I also could tell them what I thought about the event instantly. And I said it was great, and they said, well, can we count on you next year? And they wouldn't have said that if I didn't say it was great, right? So they already have a pledge 12 months in advance.
Well, I think three of the most important things that we do with sponsorships and relations and all is, one, research everybody that you go and approach prior to approaching them. We have this wonderful thing now called the internet that you can learn anything about anybody or any company. And make sure that what you're going to the people for is something that they're interested in. When it says about this company and it gives their giving histories and what they do. Find out what the CEO or whomever the decision maker is for your event. What pushes their hot button? What do they get involved with? And then cultivate all of that, as they said, as Jerry said. Make sure that you stay in touch with these people all the time, not just when you make the ask. Keep with them, take them to lunch, telephone them, email them, send them birthday cards. If you do see something in the newspaper that they've accomplished something with their business, send them a congratulatory note. Let them know that you appreciate when your friends do well. And then the one thing that I love and I push a lot is network. Get out there and visit with people. Come to events like this and visit with your peers, and you'll meet other people that maybe would be somebody that would want to sponsor your event. Go to association meetings, and if you're not involved with a specific association that you think people that are there might get involved with your event or with your program, find somebody that is involved, whether that's a board member or another sponsor or just a participant, and ask if you can go with them. And just go to other events, see and be seen. The more they see you and they know your name, when you do send them something, they're going to say, oh yeah, I remember her, or hey, he was there last week. I do that because I'm involved with golf. My biggest PR day of the year is Wednesday, Pro-Am Day of the Phoenix Open. And I go back and forth from the number 1 tee to number 9 green, to number 10 tee, to number 18 green, and I see all the people coming in, and when there's not someone that I think I should see that's gonna come through, I stand at the number tee box, real close to where all of the people go to Corporate Village. You'd be amazed at how many people I see and get that way. Then the next day, I send follow-up notes and say, hey, I saw you at the Open yesterday. You want to get involved with our event now? It's golf time in the Valley. So just stay in front of people as much as you can. Don't be shy. Something I heard years and years ago when I first started in the fundraising business is we never try to fail, but we can't fail to try. Get out there and talk to people, and they'll respond. Hopefully.
So with sponsorships being really challenging right now, and the corporations are starting to earmark their money differently, Can you describe a challenging sponsorship that you've had to deal with most recently and how you overcame either getting that sponsorship sold, or how did you work a different avenue maybe to get a new sponsorship out of it?
I'll start. I did make a note that, dollars were becoming more restricted. And we have a lot of family foundations as well that really hasn't been mentioned yet today that are donors to all of your agencies. And they have restrictions, right? They can't be table sponsors necessarily. So we've been developing with some of our clients that we represent sponsorships for their programs, and with that, for the cost of the ticket or the dinner, they can buy additional tickets. But guess what? At the event, we celebrate that gift of that underwriting of $20,000 of, feeding kids breakfast at their schools. So we're taking the model of what the organization does wholly and then celebrating it at the events if there's restrictions on those dollars. So, right, that's just being creative, finding workarounds.
Yeah, we do the same thing, especially in healthcare. There's a lot of companies that all of a sudden cannot, their policies have changed and they cannot get involved with a golf tournament. But if we offer some kind of an educational component to it, they can do that. So what I always say when I do my sponsorships and I write them out and we send out a brochure or something, I always tell people these are guidelines. Make sure that you can, massage your sponsorships and give the people, tailor it to what the companies need and or want, so it fits their purpose, not just yours. And it'll take you a long ways. We did lose one $10,000 sponsor last year, and I thought, oh, now what are we gonna do? And by playing around like this and massaging and giving them what they wanted, we replaced that $10,000 with $12,000. So we were very happy with that. So you just have to kind of work with it and work with them the best you can.
All good answers, right? What do I was sharing with somebody earlier today. We do an annual gala, and this year we have some logistical setup issues. So we're reconfiguring the space, and when we reconfigured the space, we're thinking like, is this a potential opportunity for us? So we were making a little lemonade out of lemons, and so we created one big space that's going to house our silent auction open, where we open the gala, and also we do an after party. So we created a brand new $10,000 sponsorship, talked about it in our committee meeting, and sold it within one day. So, and actually we sold it to a committee member. Like did not see that happening, but I think it was just the way we communicated. So I think that part of the message behind that is you're always going to lose sponsorships. It's just the reality. If they're, like Larry mentioned, if they're tied to a board and they rotate off the board, sometimes their sponsorship goes away with them. So really, part of what you want to take a look at is, do you have sustainable sponsors outside board members? And that's one of the things you should maybe take a look at as well. So the reality is, when we're talking in a few minutes really about how you find sponsors, it really comes into two different buckets. It's either people you know or people you don't. It's as simple as that. And then there's some strategies and techniques based on both of those that we can talk about a little bit.
When you're finding sponsors and you're saying, I've got the title sponsor available for $20,000 at my event, here's the benefits that come with it. You get table 10, you get logo signage, you get website signage. What do you really think is a draw for a sponsor? Because those are kind of, when you're looking at everybody as a whole, those are really kind of standard gifts that a sponsor. You give them the table of 10, you give them the logo on your website, you give them the ad or the signage at your event. What do you really feel is a draw, and how do you make that happen to sell that $10,000 or $20,000 title sponsors?
On the title sponsorships, I'm really trying to give face time now to the leader of the organization. So it's either the board member that represents because it's pretty much going to be a corporation that you're talking to. And so FaceTime within the program, and those seem to go over really well, especially if they've been in the news lately, because you've been tracking it like we've been talking about, and want to elevate the profile of a new CEO or a new marketing director, new salesperson. And that's been really, I don't mail it to them first. we go into the meeting, with our client together and say, hey, this is what we were thinking. And then we send it to them as a follow-up. So it's like it was organically created for them, customized for them in the meeting. Because, yeah, you don't ask for $20,000 plus over email, so.
Two things. One is, which goes back before trying to get that title sponsorship, that I would recommend is, are your sponsorship right-sized for your event? So as an example, if you have a $20,000 level and you've never ever sold it, then maybe you should just rethink that and get rid of it. It's better to just drop it down to 15 or 10, sell it. One of the things that we always take a look at when we do things at Ronald McDonald House is we always talk about guest experience. Is somebody going to have a great guest experience? And if they have a great guest experience, and if they're sitting in the room that night, then they may very well be your title sponsor the very next year. I mean, so that's part of what we take a look at. And then when we talk about like what they get for that title sponsorship, that's part of what we customize. For some people, they're like, we want the ability to get up and say hello to your guest. Like, we feel a part of your family, we want that ability. Like, we don't really care about X, Y, or Z. We're like, okay, we can make those adjustments, but part of that is having that conversation with them and understanding really what they want.
I agree, and with title sponsors, we had one with the Golf Classic at Honor Health several years ago. Quite a few years ago, I can tell you, it was US West. And when US West was bought out by Quest, that first year or so, Quest didn't do much of anything unless it was big, like with the Suns or I think the Suns were the only ones in town then, possibly the Diamondbacks. But what we did, we tried, for a short time to replace that $50,000, and we said, we're not having any luck with this, so we revamped, and instead we made a $25,000 merit sponsor, and we sold it 3 times. So that 50 suddenly became 75,000, and it was wonderful. And they got the big splash and everything that the title sponsor would have gotten. And we, the charity, obviously did quite well with that. But again, what you have to do with all of those is look at who wants just the exposure, who wants to get involved because they want to be a good community corporate sponsor or corporate partner. And just find out again from them with their research or cultivating and getting to know them. What exactly do they want? You can't just go in with a cookie cutter type thing and say, here, this is what we have. You want it? You can take it? Oh, good. Oh, but. So you have to do things like that. And then, of course, once you have them for retention, is make sure that you fulfill everything that you offer them in your sponsorship. That's one thing that I know with Quest that I'll always remember. The CEO, the president here, not the CEO, but the president of Arizona, they were a flag sponsor, was part of what came with their title sponsorship. And I would take him this framed flag every year that had their logo on it. And he said to me one time, he said, I don't believe you bring this to me every year. He said, other charities that have something like this, if we do the same thing every year, they give it to me the first year and then I don't see it again. I said, well, no, that's part of your sponsorship. Of course we give it. He said, follow me. And he took me down the hall and lined up all the way down this hallway was every framed flag from every one of our tournaments. And it made me feel really good, but I thought, okay, fulfillment. You have to do with fulfillment. So that's some of the things that sponsors really do pay attention to.
And then for those that maybe are trying to tear apart that $20,000 title sponsor and make it more manageable, what areas within your event can you do sponsorships for? What are they suited for, I guess you would say, is when you're selling a sponsorship, what areas can you include, or what are sponsorship worthy areas within your event?
Again, there's various levels, as you all know, and I just always say, so long as we keep it clean, you can sponsor anything. We have sponsored porta potties. We sponsor the videos. We certainly do the sponsorship with AES for the touchpads and the technology. Sponsor shirts and caps and golf balls and just anything. Scoreboards. If it's solid and you can put a name on it, try to sell it. You know, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But you can sponsor just about anything. And it's amazing how you'll find the people out there that will buy just about anything. So don't be shy, don't be afraid to ask.
One thing we've been experimenting with this year is sponsorships that only include 2 or 4 tickets to the event. And with those 2 and 4 ticket sets, we actually give them a VIP table placement with other VIPs that we want them to network with, and somebody key from the organization. So we're kind of controlling the table seating that way and giving them a VIP experience. Because how many times have you heard, it's the night before the event, I don't have 2 more people for my table. They didn't really want a table for 10. Maybe they only want, to host another couple from their company, or just come and sit with another couple that's gonna give it that level. And then you give them everything, 2 tickets to the pre-reception with the honorees, the photo op, where they're at for the bidding during the auction. And so we're really introducing this with the History Makers Gala next year. And so far the buzz with the committee is that they're gonna buy up those spots because they don't wanna sit in the back.
Oh.
Second point to that is we only have sponsorships available up until 3 months before the event. Then the single ticket prices and the table hosts go on sale. Because you don't want anybody who's capable of doing, say, $5,000 or more to come in on the cheap when you're far out with your planning. Because, right, you want to start planning the day after your last event, your next event. So you've got this, great timeline in place. You're correcting from your follow-up notes from your previous event. And so these are ways you can take advantage when you have a nice long lead timeline with your committee and make them feel like VIPs, not people in the back.
What I would recommend is focusing on the core piece of whatever it is, whether it's a walk or whether it's a gala or a golf tournament, is just to make sure that, if you're trying to sell whatever that is, whether it's a foursome, whether it's a table of 10, focus on that first. That is really the crux of that, because what you really want is sustainable donors. You want those tables to come back every single year, and then once you've mastered that, then you can move on to something like that. We added a couple years ago a valet sponsor for $5,000. It made a lot of sense. We had an existing relationship. We thought, hey, so we had a meeting, we talked about it, we got a verbal confirmation like this fits our business model, this is fantastic, nobody's ever offered this to us. And so we feel that's going to be sustainable, and it has been for a couple of years. But I would really focus on the core tables first, and then you can expand out. A part of this comes to, have any of you ever heard of something called 4-pointing? How you take a look at an event? So instead of looking at it from a SWOT or a SMART, it's called 4-pointing. So you take a look at increasing the net of an event through 1 is sponsorships, 2 is the average per participant, 3 is the number of participants, and the 4th is expenses. So if you're looking at a simple way to tear apart your event, that's it. So if you say, as an example, hey, we get 400 people, but we're only making $60,000, what it really is, 1 is, are you getting the right people, and 2 is the average per participant. So you're getting people at your event. Somehow they're just not able to just shake loose of the money. So you have to take a look, although it sounded a little crass, didn't it? But you really have to create those opportunities for that. So that would be a technique that I would kind of recommend for you as well. And then I would move on to how do we take it to the next level?
Well, I still have a lot of questions, but I think you guys might have some too. So does anybody want to start with questions relating within your group, your organization?
Shy group.
I
know, I don't know about that.
So, so my big one, where do you guys find your sponsors? When you're looking at expanding those opportunities and going out to the ground and starting fresh, where do you find it? Because we have a lot of new organizations in the Valley that are just starting up and just starting to do their fundraising. They don't have this goal-minded set yet of where do I go? How do I get this 100 list? Now, how do I manage it down so that I can find a sponsor in that to start me? So where do you find yours?
Yeah. It's a great question.
With us, go to board members, certainly committee, that's one of the reasons why you bring your committee in, because these people are supposed to be connected and can help you achieve your goals. For us with the hospital, we definitely talk with vendors, hospital vendors. And then some of the vendors, I talk to them about some of the people that they work with. And I brought in quite a few that do that. And again, just, you go to LinkedIn, go to the Business Journal. I find a lot of things in people in the Business Journal. Go to front doors. We always just, as I said before, don't be afraid to ask people to help you. It's amazing how much people usually do want to help. Just from acquaintances that you have, neighbors, people at church, people at other functions that you go to, they'll get involved and they will help you, but you do have to ask. And it's, sometimes it's not easy. It's that old, you're gonna get 9 no's before you get your first yes, but you just have to keep going. And I know all of you can do that or you wouldn't be in this business. You have to have thick skin, and that's good. But, just go after it. And then once you do get the sponsor, one of the things I meant to mention before is make sure you give everybody service. The one thing I love the definition of service is you give the customer what he or she wants before they know they want it. If they have to ask you for something, you're not giving them service. And make sure that keeps them coming back. If they know that they're going to get what they think they need or want, or you surprise them and they go, wow, I hadn't thought about this. That's what you do. So talk to people, and you can get, even that's part of the service, is going to people and finding out who the people that they know are that would want to get involved.
Similar to what Debbie said, it really is a compilation with the organization and the stakeholders in the event. And I almost go through an interview process now when somebody's new to us and we're helping either establish a new event or revamp an event that's kind of grown stagnant. And it is, who's your healthcare provider? Who are you honoring somebody? Should you be honoring somebody? Is there an anniversary going on? And then we kind of create, right, on the whiteboard, these circles of influence, and then we start the arms. So you're honoring somebody, and they're on the Blue Cross Blue Shield board of directors, but they usually are not tied. Blue Cross would not usually be tied to your organization, so you don't usually fit within their parameters. But if you make a special request to CEO's office or Sue Law in community relations, you have to kind of sometimes go around these online submissions that are very, very strict. So it's all customized, and every year you sit down and you go through this process and kind of interview yourself, your organization, what the mission of the event and who's going to be involved, and draw up your new invitation list, if you will, the sponsorships from there. And then when you get really good at that kind of system, second layers kind of come in from it, because you're on top of it and you're out there. And those people will tell their other people, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. So, and like Larry said, have your sponsors, especially if they're tied, board members, volunteers, sell those other tickets at those tables. And that turns a $5,000 sponsorship, if you have $250 tickets, that ramps it up to 12.5 or something like that. Sorry, my calculator in front of me. Great tactic, and great way to tell you're really helping us by doing this. And then give them the extra benefits. Call them out that night. Put them up in the next level as a, almost like a surprise. I love it.
So this question really is where rubber meets the road, right? Where do you find sponsors and how do you acquire them? So in addition to this, I'll give you a couple other ideas. Most likely a big sponsor you already know. You just have never thought of them as a big sponsor. So one of the things I would highly encourage you to think about is go to your board of directors. We've picked up a couple of sponsors who are already sitting on our board of directors. So I always say, same company, different event, different results. We have a company, a board member has a company who did a gala sponsorship for us, and they were great. Then we introduced a brand new golf tournament to support a third house that we opened up in November of 14, and ended up being our title sponsor for golf. Golf was a better fit for them. They still loved us. They still were part of the gala. They just wanted to do both. So that would be one of the things that I would recommend. The other thing is data mining. I know it's kind of a technical term, but really go back to your donor database. We could take a kind of a lesson from major gift officers. So major gift officers look at a couple of things to make people suspects or prospects, right? Technical terms, right? I didn't call somebody a suspect. The length of giving, the frequency of giving, the amount they give. If those all increase, they become a high probability they are high for a major gift. Same thing for special events. If you have people or companies that are giving more and more, then you should make time, because we only have so much time in the day, right? We have to decide how we're going to use it. That's a really good use of time. The other technique that I'll give you, I was telling you that we opened a third house, we did a capital campaign, and we started meeting with people, making introductions. And one of the things was really interesting that happened, they wanted to see who else we were meeting with and who else already had skin in the game. The first couple of meetings we were a little taken back, like, you want to see our prospect list? That seems a little unusual for us. But we leveraged that to a different question, which is, who do you know? And so that's why they wanted to see the list. And so we said, who's not on this list that we should be having conversations with? And they said, oh, it is Mark at blah, blah. We don't know Mark, can you introduce us? Not only will I introduce you, I'll go in the meeting with you. And it ended up landing a couple of big gifts for our capital campaign. So, that question, who do you know, who should we be having a conversation with?
So you have, in most events, you'll have program donors or program sponsors and then event sponsors. How do you include your program ones in your activities at your event or in your event? So they don't want to be a full-on $5,000 event sponsor. They don't need all of that, but they're going to maybe do an underwriting opportunity instead. How would you include, or what would you give?
So we do sell several underwriting opportunities. Jerry mentioned ballet sponsorship. I love selling the ballet sponsorship. Or we kind of retooled favor sponsor. Remember, you used to go to events, there used to be 10 tchotchkes, at every single place, and those days came to a halt when budgets were cut during the recession. And so we now will go and negotiate the price of a favor from a local vendor, like Sweet Stops chocolates or Soretas or something like that. And then we sell the sponsorship to go onto the tag on it. So we can tell them, we're presenting your logo in this professional way. We're pairing you with, an amazing local vendor, and, they cut the price for us, or, whatever, how deep they need to go into the information of how it's a win-win all the way around. And so, depending on the event, same thing with, runs and walks and all that, we're looking at, here's what we want to do to produce the event. Now, what can we cherry pick within it and sell to somebody that, again, we're not asking for a title sponsorship, but we want them to do marketing at the event and feel really good about it. So is that what you're talking about?
What we've done, and not necessarily getting them involved with other sponsorships, sometimes to a lower level sponsor, but we've had a few people that are involved with the foundation who don't want to be involved with the events, so we certainly bring them in as volunteers. And I have one lady in particular who started with me on one event, and she did registration, and then she did a few other things, is registration and bag stuffing, took control of the bag stuffing. And then she really enjoyed the auctions, so she got very involved with the auctions and cataloging everything. And then that event started to fade. It was getting a little old or long in the tooth, as we said this morning, and got her involved in the golf classic. And she, again, helped me with just stuffing bags and the auction. And I said, well, why don't you come to our first committee meeting? This was just last year. She came and ended up being one of the best volunteers that we had on the committee, did do a sponsorship, and she is also now one of the best volunteers we have in the office for the entire foundation. She comes in and helps anybody with anything that they need or want, and it's tremendous. So just keep them involved at all times, and you never know what's going to come from it.
I think you're talking about events underwriting or sponsorships, somebody doing the valet or something like that. I personally want them to come to the event. I want them to use the 2 or 3 tickets that I'm giving them because I want them to go from being, this makes good business to, I love your mission. Because if they become mission driven, then the conversation completely changes, and they kind of go, you know what, I really like you and I love your mission. As a matter of fact, we're going to increase our sponsorship. I'm going to, one of the things that we've been working on is who comes to your table. I think Larry gave us such great examples this morning is, we've gone through a transition of, I'm buying a table and I'm filling it with office workers, which are great and fine, to I'm buying that table and I'm filling it with my neighbor, I'm visiting with my coworkers, I'm my business partner. That is a game changer. So we want to put the right people in the right seats to do the right things. This is why we've all been to events where just like you sit there doing the cash call or whatever they call it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is like going to the dentist, But if you do it the right way, it really is very joyous because it really is a celebration of the mission and pushing the mission forward. So those people that are in the cash call saying like, hey, the wine pool is great and the silent auction, the live auction is great, but I just really want my money to go to the mission and you've inspired me tonight, and that is the end result.
Yeah, did you have a question?
So, talk to me about what you see in kind of the trends with the VIP rooms and the VIP event side of it, and how do you incorporate the VIPs and the government sponsors? What do you see that works and that provides value?
I'll speak to that. I think one of the best ones that happens is the Valley Leadership Man and Woman of the Year. That pre-VIP reception is with the 2 honorees and the past honorees, and they really have leveraged that organization to include that in the corporate packages. And it is tightly controlled because I think we've all seen the VIP things that linger, and there's crashers and all kinds of crazy things, and you kind of lose control of your whole VIP experience. And that control comes from coaching with the committee and making your promises and fulfilling your promises to your sponsor of what's going to happen. And same thing, you have your run the show and your timeline with all your AV and everybody inside. We always have a run the show for the VIP session as well. We find board members and our committee members to go up to their sponsors and thank them and do that touch. And it is controlled to an hour, and that hour only overlaps about 15 minutes with general event registration, so that the general event registration isn't going and looking for the VIP. They shouldn't even know what's going on. It should be a separate thing. It's not listed on the website. It's not listed as a benefit on everything. It's given to everybody that is at that high level. And we always photograph those and send the photographs either digitally or printed after the event to those VIPs to remind them that we did our job, and they got to have that cool conversation with the CEO of whoever, take a picture with the honoree.
With our golf events, we've done the VIP thing only once, and it didn't seem to be that well received. And some of the people that weren't involved thought, we want to do that. And we said, well, it's for a certain level of giving and that type of thing. And it just, the VIPs weren't real excited about it. So instead, what we've done is do a sponsor appreciation outing. So we include what would have been the VIP people and bring them out and make it fun. And again, we keep it around golf. So we've done it at Top Golf. We've done Tips and Sips at TPC, and they have really, really enjoyed that. And again, that's another touch point, another way to stay in front of these people and to make them feel special. So the night of the event type of thing didn't work for us, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work for you.
2 words, recognition and experience. I think that is really where the trend is with going the VIP experience. People want to be recognized for their gift. They want to do that. So I think part of that is, and they also want a special experience. They want something different than everybody else has. Couple of examples. I told you we do a golf tournament. We do a VIP golf clinic with a champion touring pro. Can't necessarily go out and buy that. So it's only exclusive just to our event, just that for 45 minutes. We have a photographer out there. He'll take pictures with you. He'll give you tips on your game. That's part of the VIP experience. And also for the golf tournament, we also did VIP parking. So parking is always really tough at golf tournaments. So when they drove up, they knew exactly where they were parking. We emailed them with a special note that says, "This is for you, please print it out. Here are the directions, and if you have any problems, here's my personal cell number, call me." So I think that people are really looking for those kind of experiences. And the last example I'll give you is a couple years ago when we used to have a title sponsor, we used to just say, you get 2 tables or 3 tables, whatever the magic number is, but they look like everybody else's. So one of the things that we did is we created a dais feasting table that looked extremely different. It had different linens, it had different giveaways, it had a different completely. So everybody in the room knew, like, those people are the presenting sponsors and they are having a great time.
On that VIP parking, you can negotiate with your hotels to have valet parking passes made, and I print them on neon yellow paper. Downtown Sheraton, actually, if you do a good job negotiating your contract, will give you 2 or 4 with your contract, but we've added extra to make sure that all the high-level sponsors, those are delivered to their offices, the Monday before the event, and they drive up, and those valets know that those are one of our top people, and that those cars generally get to stay out front too. And so when they leave with the masses, their car's sitting right there. So parking's big as these events get bigger and bigger.
Any other questions?
I apologize if this had been asked. What about one asks? Do either, or any of you do one asks? Where I know we've had some people say, instead of calling me for the golf tournament, then calling me for the ball, then calling me for this, let's put together something that will hit all 3 events and give you one lump sum. What do you prefer? What's your idea on that?
One of our clients this past year was Stars in Scottsdale, and we found through an audit last summer that there are 2 events. It was a fashion show and then a fiesta. They were competing with each other for sponsorship dollars, so we went back and we created the fall event to be a friend-raiser and the spring event to include the fashion show that was very popular as the program. And Brett was a big help as our auctioneer on developing what was going to happen there to raise additional dollars and making a big switch after 40 years of tradition at Stars with their fiesta. And we put together sponsorship materials that, they expired once the fall event was coming, but we sold 2 first last summer. And it was, it was really an add-on for the fall one, which was a food truck fun event at the baseball stadium. And then, your big table and lots of benefits were really backloaded to what they'd done for 40 years in the gala. And it was great. It showed their sponsors that they were modernizing their events, that they weren't coming twice a year. And so for their tried and true sponsors that they had for years and years, they thanked them and they added on, we increased.
When we were Scottsdale Healthcare Foundation, we did have something that we called Corporate One, and that was exactly what we did. We would go to each corporation one time and say, here are the events that we have, and give them a laundry list, if you will, and let them choose, what level they wanted at each event, or if they only wanted one event, or however they wanted to do it. Again, let the sponsor be the one to decide that, and then we weren't going after them all the time. We started getting away from that in the last couple of years, but now that we have merged with John C. Lincoln and we're Honor Health, and we have double of all of the events, we are going back to Corporate One. In fact, we're putting that all in play right now. So it is convenient, and it is, I think, pretty smart when you do have that, and you're going, because sometimes people say, oh my gosh, we got another one from them. Oh my gosh, here they come again. And you just don't want to do that. You want them to feel good. You want them to know that you're thinking about them and respecting their time, for one thing, and also how they give their monies.
Gail, I think that's a great question. My answer is going to be a little bit different as it relates specifically to board members. We do a board service option form that we ask every board member to complete in January, and it lists all the options for them to be involved with us, and we have dollar amounts listed to say, tell us once in January how we can count on your support, and then we'll plug you in accordingly. And it really helps with the business planning piece of that as well. All great questions, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
I heard a bell. I don't know if we're being kicked off or not. Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Last one is, if you can leave the group with one final piece of advice on sponsorships, what would you give them?
Oh, I'll go first. So here's my advice. Figure out what your goal is, figure out the strategy, and own it. Communicate it out, let everybody know your intentions. If to say, our goal is $100,000 in sponsorships and $50,000 in tables, then communicate that out to everybody. I think sometimes we get, as development people, we get a little sheepish, kind of like, oh my gosh, what if I don't hit that number? It's okay. If you tried the best you can do, that's all you can do. But if you don't let your intentions be known and tell people, here is the goal, people, here's how we're going to get there, here's your role in this, let's do this, let's get excited and provide the right resources to make that happen, good things will happen. I'm a firm believer that success brings more success. You know, we talked about that guest experience. If people come to your gala or your walk or your golf tournament and they have an amazing time, they're much more likely to come back. And that's part of the secret sauce. So anyway, that's my advice.
My advice is to pick a program or an aspect of your agency to highlight at your next event and run it through from sponsorship all the way into the live auction and ask at your event. Something that you can present. Numbers, hard numbers, possibly a testimony, and really pull at those heartstrings and that education piece from start to finish. It doesn't mean and be honest, right? You're gonna fund this and that it's one aspect of your agency. So you're not saying that it's all directed dollars, because I know it can happen there. But pick something to highlight. The days of just kind of general support, I think this is where the competition that people are gonna kind of win out, with all these events. And we did a couple of those this year and it worked huge.
Well, I would certainly echo what Jerry and Andrea just said. Very, very good points. And to go along with that, as we mentioned before, cultivate, stewardship. And when you do that and you're in front of these people all the time, you talk to them and maybe you can move them from a $2,000 sponsor to a 5 or a 5 to a 10. And you're talking with them and you're getting to know new people, different people, and companies, and seeing how you can grow your event. It's amazing how people, just in talking with them, they're going to come up with ideas that you're not even going to be asking for, but you're going to think, oh wow. Or if they've been to another event, they say to you, have you ever thought about doing this at your event? Then you can take that and massage it and make it your own, a similar type of thing, but make it fit your event. So just stay in front of the people, cultivate them, give them their service, and you'll go a long ways.
Great. Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.